Say. Hey. Hey, let's get it, man. We up in this thing one more time, you know what I'm saying? One more time for your mind. Uh yeah, man, let's get into it. God, I thank you once again for this opportunity to come before you with words of wisdom, just to speak on your behalf. Just thank you for everything. Thank you for salvation. Thank you for the gift of a personal relationship with you through your son Jesus. We thank you for your grace, your mercy. Thank you for being with us in our day to day life, just covering us, protecting us, shielding us, guiding us, all that good stuff that just come from being in fellowship with you. We thank you for sending Jesus to make a way for us to be accepted by you, to come into fellowship with you. Thank you for the shedding of his blood by which our sins are forgiven. Thank you for the gift of faith to believe on you, to know you, to walk with you. And now I just ask that you give me your words, your message to speak. I pray you lead me and guide me in what I say. May the inspiration come from you. May I open up my mouth and speak as your oracle. May it be your spirit lead me and guide me with what to say. And just use me as a mouthpiece, an instrument, a tool to get out your word and to express yourself through, whether it's by word or by deed, in the name of Jesus. Yeah, you know what I mean. So that's how we coming. It's a lot going on. I'm gonna get into the current events. I'm gonna do that later on in the message. But the first thing I want to start off with, I got my notes. The first thing I want to start off with, I thank God. Hold up. Need some air up in this thing, Mike. Yeah, the first thing I want to deal with though is faith and behavior. God was dealing with me uh I guess like a week ago. You know what I'm saying? I guess like a week ago. I can't remember exactly. It's not like the last few days, but when I first started preparing for the message, this was the first thing that was heavy on my heart. Cause people can be confused, like, because just because you a Christian, it doesn't mean that you don't make mistakes. It don't mean that you done totally crucified your sin nature. You totally dead to the flesh. People might want it to be clear cut, but it ain't always clear cut. That's just how life is. But this kind of what God was dealing with me about. Now faith affects your behavior. You know what I'm saying? If you have faith in God, if you have a real relationship with him, you really get saved, you really ask God to be the Lord of your life, you really enter into a relationship with him, your faith is going to affect your behavior. But sometimes your faith can have more of a drastic and a dramatic effect on your behavior, and sometimes it can have like a more subtle effect on your behavior, and then it can be different in different seasons. You know what I mean? You might get saved and everything that you was doing wrong, you stop doing it. That's a drastic effect. Another person might get saved and the effect is more subtle. Instead of them just changing everything in their life overnight, sometimes it can be more of a gradual thing. As time goes on, you kind of shed some of them things and you pick up new things. You know what I'm saying? So it can be more dramatic or it can be more subtle, but faith is always going to affect your behavior. But faith doesn't necessarily control your behavior. Just because you have a relationship with God, there's still some sinful things you might do. You know what I'm saying? But when you have a relationship with God, you ain't gonna do it to the extent that you would do it if you didn't have a relationship with God. Or you might not do it as frequently as you would if you didn't have a relationship with God. Or you might just not take it to the level that you would take it to if you didn't have a relationship with God. Having a relationship with God, it doesn't necessarily stop you from sinning, but it may stop you from sinning as much. or it may stop you from sinning on that same level. You might not take it to the extreme the way you would have if you didn't have a relationship. You know what I mean? So I'm not trying to make excuses, but I'm just trying to explain to people, like, and then it's not always what you don't do. Well, because I'm a Christian, I don't do this, I don't do that. But it could affect your behavior in more subtle ways, like the things that you do. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you didn't have a relationship with God, you might not help nobody. But because you have a relationship with God, you know what I'm saying, you help people in ways that you probably wouldn't help people if you didn't have a relationship with God. You know what I'm saying? And that don't mean that you just finna let somebody take advantage of you, but it's like, I'll do something for you, but I ain't finna let you use me. But if I didn't have a relationship with God, I wouldn't do nothing for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm just trying to explain now, faith doesn't necessarily control your behavior, but faith will influence your behavior. And the closer you get to God, the more your faith influences your behavior. And then if you do wrong, you might have a level of remorse or a level of guilt, you know what I'm saying, a level of conviction. Whereas if you didn't have a relationship with God, it wouldn't be no feelings about it. You know what I mean? But it's not always as clear cut as people might want it to be. But when you have real faith, it's going to always influence your behavior, but not necessarily control your behavior. You know what I'm saying? You can still mess up. You can still do wrong. You can still do something strictly for the momentary pleasure. You know what I'm saying? Faith doesn't necessarily stop you from doing none of that. You can still do something out of anger, out of rage. But if you have real faith, you wouldn't do it as much as you would if you didn't have a relationship with them, and you probably won't do it as frequently, and you won't take it to the extent that you would take it to. You know what I'm saying? Whatever wrong that a person do with relationship with Christ, it probably would be to a greater extent, to a greater measure, more frequently, on a higher level if you didn't have a relationship. You know what I mean? But faith always influences behavior somehow, some way. If it ain't subtle, it's more drastic. Uh, you know what I mean? And it's not just what you don't do, but what you do because of your faith. Not just what your faith made you stop doing or made you not want to do, but there's things that your faith will cause you to do, you know what I'm saying, in the name of your faith, you know, because you know it's pleasing unto God, you know. But yeah, you can't always tell people of faith by their behavior, because they might do some stuff that look just like the same stuff somebody do that don't have a relationship with Christ. So, you know, a person's behavior does not always show their faith. But if you have faith, it's going to affect your behavior. Like in James, he talk about faith without works. He said, show me your faith without works. I show you my faith by my works. If a person has faith, they're going to have works. Now that, hold on. If a person has faith, they're going to have works. It's going to manifest in their life, but that doesn't mean that all their works are going to demonstrate their faith. Wherever there's faith, there's going to be works. But all of a person's works may not demonstrate their faith. You know, you got works that come from faith, works that come from you walking in the spirit, and then you got works that come from you walking in the flesh. Now, faith is always going to produce works, but that doesn't mean that person ain't going to have no works of the flesh either. You know, so a person's works don't always demonstrate their faith, but your faith will always produce works. You know what I'm saying? But you got good works and you got bad works. A person of faith will have some good works, but they might have some bad works, and they bad works don't demonstrate their faith. But the faith that they have is going to always produce some works. You know what I mean? And that's what spiritual maturity is about, really learning to be crucified to the flesh and the sinful, selfish, pleasurable, you know what I'm saying, desires that don't line up with the will of God. You know what I'm saying? But faith will always influence behavior, but it doesn't necessarily control behavior. Faith is gonna have an influence on your behavior, but it's not gonna it doesn't necessarily control your behavior. You know what I mean? And faith will always influence behavior. But if you look at all of a person's behavior, it's going to be some stuff in their behavior that does not demonstrate their faith. You know what I mean? But the more you grow as a Christian, the more you mature, the more your behavior is controlled by your faith. The more your behavior does express your faith. And the less works you have that don't demonstrate your faith, and the more works and your lifestyle demonstrates your faith. The acts and the works of and the deeds of your lifestyle demonstrate your faith more than they don't demonstrate your faith. You know what I mean? So yeah, faith always produces works, but all the works in a person's life may not reflect their faith. You know what I'm saying? But the more you grow in the faith, the more your works and your behavior and your lifestyle is a accurate demonstration of your faith. You know what I mean? So it's all about spiritual growth, maturity, but faith is the key. If you got real faith and you got real relationship, then everything else gonna follow. Everything else is gonna fall in place. That's why, you know, when Peter got to tripping and Jesus said, you know, the devil, he want to sift you. The devil want to have you. He want to get you. And he said, what Jesus say, I pray that your faith fail not. Because as long faith is the root, your behavior, your works, your deeds, your lifestyle is the fruit. But faith is the root. You can't have fruit without the root. If you got the root, eventually it's going to bear fruit. You know what I mean? If you got the root, then eventually it's going to bear fruit. And then when you bear fruit, God going to prune you and purge you, and you know what I mean? So you can bear more fruit. You know what I mean? John 15. You know what I mean? So it's real in the field, man. But the key is faith. You know what I'm saying? Faith is going to always overcome. That's why he said you have the victory that overcometh the world, even your faith. You know what I mean? Faith is what pleases God. Faith is the root, because you can have good behavior that lines up with the will of God, right? It's not sin. But if you don't have faith in his son, if you don't have faith in him and faith in the person that he sent, which is Jesus, then you can't even be accepted by God, because your sin stands in the way. You know what I mean? But it's very real, though. You know, people always want to be able to look at a person's life and look at a person's behavior and be able to tell, you know, what they are or whatever, what their faith is. But to be honest, it don't always go like that. You got people on all different levels. It's levels to Christianity. You know what I mean? It's levels to everything. You know what I mean? It's levels to this thing, man. But yeah, God is good, man, and faith is such a powerful thing. Faith is what puts you in the door. And as long as you keep the faith, you're going to be all right. And your behavior going to always follow your faith, whether it's right when you come into the faith or whether it's later on as you grow and develop, or as you go through things, as you experience things, as you walk with God and he shows up in your life. You know what I'm saying? But your behavior going to always follow your faith, whether it's sooner or whether it's later, whether it's on a subtle level or whether it's on a more dramatic level, whether it's on a partial level or whether it's on a complete level. You know what I'm saying? But your behavior going to always follow your faith. You know what I mean? And that's what it comes down to. You know what I mean? Your faith is what's going to keep you repenting and coming to God for forgiveness, daily sins, or, you know, whatever you do through the day. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, it's very real in the field, man. That's just encouragement. But I had wrote down a lot of stuff. I'm just looking at it. Yeah, you got to hold on to your faith, though. Don't lose your faith. Don't turn away. Cast not away your confidence. You know what I'm saying? Don't throw away your faith, because without faith, faith is what connects you to God. You know what I mean? As long as you got faith, faith is gonna keep on dealing with you. You know what I'm saying? The spirit gonna keep on dealing with you. God can work with you as long as you got faith. If you don't have faith, you ain't got no connection. You know what I'm saying? You can't come to God without faith. You know what I mean? And it's faith in Christ, Um, I had something right here. Faith and the manifestation. Yeah, so faith comes first, and then it manifests in your behavior. It manifests when you trust in God, you believe in God for something. It starts with faith, and then later on, it might be quick, it might be later, but then you get the manifestation of what you believe in God for, right? So it starts with faith, and then the manifestation comes later. And that could be your behavior, your level of holiness, overcoming some type of sin or some type of habit. It starts with faith. The manifestation comes later in your behavior. It starts with faith. The manifestation comes later for something that you believe in God for. And then it starts with faith, and then comes the victory. The victory manifests later. You know what I'm saying? It starts with faith, and then the manifestation comes later, whether it's your own behavior, your own lifestyle, your own holiness, trying to overcome this or overcome that, or be delivered from this or be delivered from that. It starts with faith, then come the manifestation. Or you believe in God for a job, a car, a spouse, a healing, a miracle, you know what I'm saying? But either way, it starts with faith, and then the manifestation come later with something that you desire, with your behavior. It starts with faith, and then comes the victory. You know what I mean? Then comes the victory over whatever it is you battling with, struggling with. It starts with faith, though. And then there's a period of time, and then there's a manifestation. Now, stuff can happen real quick, but a lot of times it just don't go like that. It's gonna be a battle, and then a victory. You know what I mean? And just like our salvation, your salvation, you start with faith, but your salvation is not completed until you actually go to be with Jesus. You know what I mean? Either he come and we get changed in the twinkling of an eye and we go to be with him, or you die and you go to be with him. That's when your salvation is complete. So you start with faith, committing your life to the God, getting saved, but it's not actually complete until you actually go to be with him. You know what I mean? So you could call that victory in your salvation, but it started with faith before it was completed. You know what I mean? Or just like I had something about the final judgment, uh like God versus Satan. Like, you have faith in God that he's gonna be the one that's victorious after all this is over with. You have faith in God now that he's gonna defeat the devil and all that, right? So it's like, well, you have faith in God now, but it's not actually done until later. You know what I mean? So you have to trust God now that it's already finished. And then it's going to be manifested later when he actually throw the devil into the lake of fire and hell and death, and all that's done away with. But you have to have faith now before all that stuff is manifested. Before we ever see the manifestation of that, we got to have faith first before we ever get to see the manifestation. So everything starts with faith, and then you get manifestation in your own holiness, in your own salvation, in your own whatever it is you seeking God for. It all starts with faith, and everything follows that. It starts with faith, and everything follows that. You become righteous once you put your faith in him. But holiness is actually righteousness manifested in your behavior and in your lifestyle. You know what I mean? So, but it starts with faith before holiness is manifested. You know what I'm saying? In your behavior, or sanctification is manifested in your behavior and your lifestyle. That'll come, but it starts with faith first. You come to God by faith, and then he clean you up. Then he fix you up. It starts with faith. Then the nature of Christ and his righteousness and holiness is manifested in your life and in your behavior. Whatever you believe in God for, it starts with faith. The manifestation come later. Or whether it's final judgment, final victory, you trust God that he's got the victory, and that he's gonna defeat the devil and defeat sin, and you trust God now. But the manifestation is gonna be later, because right now we still dealing with sin, the sin nature, the devil, the flesh, the world. All that is still up, it's still going on, it's still cracking right now. You know what I'm saying? But you trust God that he gonna deal with all that, and he already got the victory over all that, and he gonna deal with all that. You know what I'm saying? But you got to trust him now, and you'll see the manifestation later. So that's the point I want to make. Faith comes first, and everything else follows faith. But where there's faith, it's going to influence and it's going to affect your behavior and your lifestyle. But it doesn't mean that it's going to totally control your behavior and your lifestyle, so that everything that you do is going to express your faith. And that's just not true. But the closer you get to God, the more that all your behavior will reflect your faith. You know what I mean? So it's about spiritual maturity. But faith always come first, and everything godly that's gonna come, everything godly will come as a manifestation of your faith. You know what I mean? When you continue to have faith in him, continue to trust in him, continue to have relationship with him, then all those promises and everything that God called you to and all his promises will manifest in your life more and more as you continue in faith and you continue in relationship with him. You know what I mean? But just as human beings, sometimes we do fluctuate. You may take some steps back. You know what I mean? Take one step forward, two steps back. You may go through some ups and downs, some ins and outs. You know what I mean? Life can get shaky. Behavior can get shaky. Habits and stuff can come and go. You lay something down, then you pick it back up. You know what I mean? That's just how life goes. You know what I'm saying? That's our humanity. You know what I'm saying? But if you keep your faith as the constant, then God gonna always be there in your life, working with you, dealing with you. You know what I mean? Molding you and shaping you and using all your experience to help make you into who he wants you to be, and teaching you wisdom and just dealing with the condition of your heart, man. As long as you got faith, then you a work in progress, even if it looked like you might have went backwards, or you might have went up and then went down, or went forwards and then went backwards. It can get kind of tricky looking at a person's behavior and lifestyle, and looking at a person's works and acts and deeds, because certain stuff you gonna see, certain stuff you ain't gonna see. You know what I mean? But judging a person by their behavior, you know what I mean? It can get kind of tricky, because a person's behavior does not always demonstrate their faith. You know what I mean? So it should, but it doesn't always, just because we humans and we got a dual nature. You know what I mean? So it can get tricky, but I'm telling you something about faith. You know what I'm saying? You can't always see a person's faith. You should be able to see their faith through their behavior, but the truth is you don't always. You know what I mean? But the more spiritually mature you are, the more you can see a person's faith through their behavior and through their lifestyle without it being a conflict. You know what I'm saying? Without getting mixed signals. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, though, that's why you got to look at Jesus, because people can be tricky. We all complicated. We got a complicated nature. You got two different natures. You know what I mean? So it can get complicated. It can get tricky. You know what I mean? So that's why at the end of the day, you can look at people, but you really got to look at Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher, you know what I'm saying, of our faith. You know what I mean? You got to look unto him at the end of the day, though. You know what I mean? And you know, you can let people encourage you and inspire you, but you don't put your hope in man, because man is still man. He's still a human. And we hope it don't never happen, but man could fall away. You know what I mean? Man could something could happen and man could walk away, or man could fall into some sin and get exposed or something, and you done put your high hopes in this person, but he's human, so she's human. Anybody can mess up. You know what I mean? So you really got to keep your eye on Jesus. Even Paul said, you follow me, but as I follow Christ. Follow me as I follow Christ. You know what I mean? If a person deviate from the path, then you stop following them and keep following Jesus. You know what I mean? You got to have your own personal relationship. And you can let people encourage you and inspire you, but let your faith not be in man. Let your faith be in Jesus, because he not going to change. You know what I mean? And then just this last word God had gave me about multitasking. Uh, you got to be able to handle your business. You got to be able to do whatever it is you called to do, whatever it is you need to do, whatever your business is. You gotta be able to handle your business while you're going through what you're going through, while you're dealing with what you're dealing with. Cause life don't stop cause you dealing with something. Life don't stop because you're going through something. You know what I'm saying? Life gonna keep going. The earth gonna keep spinning. It's gonna keep turning. You know what I mean? So whatever you got going on in life, you got to be able to handle your business and do whatever it is you got to do. Do whatever it is you need to do. You got to be able to handle your business, even though you're going through this, even though you're going through something, even though you're dealing with something. You got to be able to handle your business and do what you got to do at the same time you going through that. Multitasking, because when problems come, when problems arise, when storms come, life don't stop. Let everything stop while I handle this. Nah, you got to handle it while you handling everything else. While you going through your daily life, handling all your responsibilities, you got to deal with that problem at the same time. You got to go through this storm at the same time. You got to handle all your other daily stuff. Hey, it's real in the field. You can't be weak. It's not for the faint of heart. But everybody gonna go through stuff. You know what I mean? You might as well have God with you to walk you through it. And when you really going through stuff, God can really hold your hand and really walk you through it. Can't no person really, or it just wouldn't feel right, or it just too much of a burden on another person trying to make somebody hold your hand while you walking through a storm or while you dealing with something. Like people got their own lives to tend to. You can't expect people to, walk with you through your trials and tribulations. Like, thank God if you got somebody to support you or encourage you while you going through something. You know what I'm saying? Thank God if you got that. But you know what I'm saying? A lot of times it can just be too much to ask and too much to expect from another person. You know what I'm saying? When you really got to go through something, when you really got to handle something, God can really walk you through it. He can really hold your hand and walk you through it. But people, they can't, and you ought not expect that from people. You ought not expect that from people. That's asking too much. People can't hold your hand while you walking through trials and tribulations, but God can. Yeah, let's go on to the next one.